right. Okay. So we have a variable here, right? It's normally distributed, okay? The mean we have is 88, okay? And the standard deviation we're told is 25. We want to find each of the following using z-scores, okay? First, we're going to get the percentage of data between 80 and 100, okay? So you can see we're going to subtract areas. We're going to subtract the area to the left of 100 minus the area to the left of 80. But actually, we're going to use z-scores. So let's get the z-score for each of these. This is what, for 80 and 100. For 80, you subtract the mean, divide by the standard deviation, and you end up getting this, which is this. For 100, we have this. You subtract the mean, divide by the standard deviation. 12 over 25 is 0.48. So that's what we get here. Now we want the area between 80 and 100, right? These are the z-scores. So we want the area to the left of 80, which is the same as the area under the standard normal distribution, to the left of negative 0.32. We also get the area to the left of 100, which equals the area under the standard normal distribution to the left of 0.48. And then we subtract. So in other words, we have to get the area to the left of negative 0.32, the area to the left of 0.48, and subtract. Now, again, in that table, I guess I should share the table. Let me do that. You're not going to see negative 0.32 or 0.48, so you have to round. So let me share the table again. Okay. So again, here we want negative 0.32, but negative 0.32 is not there. So what do? We subtract negative 0.3, as you can see. And that's about 0.3821. And we also need the area to the left of, what's the other one? 0.5. Okay. And that's over here, as you can see. So basically, we're going to subtract this area from this one. All right. Again, this table, it's in the textbook, so you can easily get access to it. The textbook is on Lumen, although you should know that by now. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay. So again, what do? We subtract areas, right? So that's what I'm saying here. Right? The numbers here. This is the area to the left of negative 0.3. We saw that. This is the area to the left of 0.5. And we subtract. And you'll end up with this. So I don't know what the data values represent. Okay? I don't. But it turns out about 30.94% are between 80 and 100. Well, between these two z-scores, but again, since they're the z-scores of 80 and 100 respectively, we get that 30.94% of the data values are between 80 and 100. So that's for number one. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, here's part two. Now we want all the data, percentage of data less than 98. And again, you could use Desmos to check, but I say you have to use, I tell you in the instructions to use z-scores. So what do? You subtract, right? The mean, you divide by the standard deviation. Doing so, you'll get the z-score, which in this case turns out to be 10 over 25, which is 0.4. Okay. So the area to the left of 0.4, you actually can find that directly in the table. It's about this, 0.6554. And so as a percent, you get about 65.54%. That's about about 65.54% of the data values are less than 98. Now, what about greater than 98? Remember, we saw this last time. This means we want the area to the right of 98. We have the area to the left, we just subtract. We do 1 minus the area to the left. So we do 1 minus 0.6554, which is 0.3446, like so. So the percentage, so the area to the right of 98 is 0.3446, meaning the percentage of data values to the right is 34.46%. Right. Any questions on that? All right. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 12. So I want to start doing now is reviewing a bit. Now, my impression was that chapter 6 gave people a lot of trouble, you know, with the TVM solver and the payout annuities and all that. So I figured it wouldn't hurt to go through that. I know part of it's on, I know material from it is on the test, but I still figured it's okay. Mostly because the test is open book, so you have the notes in the textbook anyway, and YouTube videos. So I'm going to start reviewing. So let me get to chapter 6. Wait, that's not there. Here it is. Loading up. Okay. There we go. There we go. Okay. So if you remember, one of the things we dealt with in chapter 6, well, actually in chapter 5, remember, we considered the situation where, you know, you had an account and you deposit money once, or I think we also consider, if I remember correctly, if you have a loan and you're paying off the money at one time, right? We considered those situations. But in chapter 6, when you look at annuities and you get a little bit more general with loans, and we also dealt with retirement accounts, those are more realistic because you're not going to just deposit all the money at once. It's going to be, you know, more on a regular schedule. Okay? And again, what we're doing is we're putting money in on a regular schedule, you know, every month, every year. It's going to sit there earning interest as well. There is compounding involved. Okay? There is compounding. Okay? And again, we assume it's compounded as often as we make deposits. So if we make monthly deposits, it's compounded monthly. If we make deposits once a year, it's compounded once a year, and so on. And this was the formula, remember. Again, it's in the book, but this is the formula. You know, PMT is that regular deposit. A is the balance after T years. Little r here and here, that's the APR, which is basically the interest rate in decimal form. N is how many compounding periods are done in 1 year. So if it's compounded monthly, N would be 12. If it's compounded quarterly, N would be 4 times a year. No, wait. Quarterly means every 3 months, so 4 times a year. Sorry, I misspoke. T is how many years we plan to make deposits. You know how long this is going on for. And again, we're always assuming this, that if it's not explicitly stated, the compounding frequency, it's compounded as often as we're making deposits. Okay. All right. And again, you can use a TVM solver, okay, to solve these. There is a link in on Blackboard. This is a link to it, the TVM solver. This is what the variables there indicate. You know, capital N in that TVM solver, okay, it's basically how many payment or compounding periods there are. In other words, it's little n times t. How many times the account is compounded is really what this is after. I is the interest as a percent. PV is how much is in the account at the very beginning, you know, at the initial amount. PMT is the monthly deposit or monthly withdrawal, if we're taking money out. FV is how much is in the account at the end of the scenario, it down in the years later. P/Y is how many payment periods there are, okay? C/Y is how many compounding periods there are. I know here it says total number of payments / compounding periods, but again, it's being compounded as frequently as we make payments by assumption. So that's why these are always the same. And this is also stuff to consider, that when money is going away from you, even if you're putting it into an account, it's still considered negative in the TVM solver. And when money's coming to you directly, right into your hand, I guess, so to say, like when you take money out of an account, or when someone is paying you something, that's called the cash inflow, and that's considered positive.